Hello everyone, this is Eric with GameBall, the gaming trackball mouse. It has been a while since my last video. We've been pretty busy with firmware updates, logistical changes, support, and then just trying to keep GameBall in stock. However, I've found some time to play V Rising, and I really like the game. I wanted to share my thoughts on it, and then how I use GameBall with it. So just a quick update on GameBall and kind of where we're at. So it's been a year since we started selling GameBall. We've been blown away by the overall demand, the feedback, the community and the support we've gotten from everybody involved. So thank you everyone for getting GameBall off the ground and getting us to where we are so far. We've definitely had some learning experiences and some growing pains, but we're real happy with where we're at, and we will continue to support GameBall, and we're looking at future products, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. So happy with where we're at with GameBall. Still more to do, still more firmware updates. We did just release firmware 1.71, and that's in beta. If you'd like a copy of that, you can send I'll put a link in the description below, but you can send us an email and get you a copy of the latest firmware. It gives you the ability to remap a few buttons, so you can swap a couple more buttons, and you can lower the polling rate, and there's a few other features that allow you to change some of the settings for GameBall. So if you'd like the new firmware, send us a note on that, and you can help us beta test that thing. So we are going to be releasing the next release for GameBall will be a ball kit, which will have two colored balls. We'll have a yellow and a silver. This is the silver here, and this is the yellow. I just happen to have these two. So we'll be selling that as an add-on kit. That'll be coming in the next couple of weeks, so take a look or be on the lookout for that. That'll be our first add-on, and we're going to see how the demand goes for that to see if we're going to be releasing other kits, other add-ons for GameBall, other colored balls. But yeah, have a look for that in the next coming weeks. I imagine those will sell fairly quickly. We're not making a lot of them, and again, that's just to kind of test the waters for that. We are still working on the GameBall Pro. That's a different model. It'll be a right-handed design instead of ambidextrous like GameBall is here, but the GameBall Pro will be right-handed, have a little bit larger ball, have a physical scroll wheel, things like that. So I'll put some more notes about the Pro in the description below, so you can have a look at that. And we'll be working, or continue to work on the Pro version. So let's talk about V Rising and what it is, and how you play it, and then how you use it with GameBall. So V Rising is a vampire-based open-world survival game. If you've played Valheim or Conan Exiles, it's similar to those. Very heavy on the crafting. In fact, there's no experience points. You get your level here, like for example, I'm level 41, just through gear. So you have to craft all your gear. So in order to level, you have to go out, fight bosses, get new recipes, craft new armor, craft new items, and that will raise your gear level. Like for example, I'm holding axes. If I switch over to my lower level sword, you'll see it drop my level there to 38. So it's very dependent, or 100% really dependent on the gear and the weapons that you're carrying, which will dictate what level you are. So that's how the leveling system works. Like I said, the crafting is pretty heavy. The harvesting, all that is a big part of the game. I think it's a little slow. I changed the settings. I'm on a PvE private server with some buddies, and I changed the the settings for mine so that it's not quite the slog that it is. It's a little slow in gathering resources, so if you create your own server, you can adjust those, which I would recommend. If you have multiple people on the server, it's a little easier because you can have them going out and collecting things. But for my taste, I wanted to knock those settings down a little bit. So like when I go out here and harvest a tree, I get a little bit more lumber than what you would on the default setting. Same thing for collecting stone and that type. I just didn't want it to be too much of a work involved for crafting and harvesting. So you start as a vampire. You're basically level 1. You go out and you have to hunt. You have to drink blood, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute. And then you build your base. So I've built this base. So you build your base up. You build new items, new crafting stations, of course, chests to store all your stuff, furnaces to smelt ore, things like that. You have to have your coffin, of course. So these are our coffins here. Um, your castle heart is really where you it's the key to your castle. It's what you start with, and you have to feed it blood essence, which you gather from hunting down just about everything in the game, and then you have to feed that, and it consumes your blood essence. It's a pretty slow tick, so that you don't have to worry about that consuming it too quickly. If you're on a public server, that counts down constantly. Private server, it's only when you're online, so it's very rare that you're going to run out of any blood essence for your castle there. So I don't know if you've noticed, if you've played V Rising, I have a mod here that allows me to go into a little bit of a third-person view, which I prefer. I'll put the link to that in the description, but it allows you to get down and if you prefer a closer view, which I do, for some of the combat, you can do that in this mod. It's adjust the view angle, and so you can get in there. So anyway, I'll post a link to that in the description below. Okay, so the combat is probably the highlight to this game. Let me go out here, and I have some mobs out here I'll fight. I think it's very well done. Just one note, you'll notice that I'm moving the cursor around or moving the mouse around, and it moves the cursor around. If I hold the right click, it freezes the cursor and moves the screen around. So most of my combat, actually, I put the cursor above the head of my character and I right click. So I'm holding down the right click with my ring finger. And that's actually how I fight. And that keeps me focused on the mobs right in front of me, so I can fight them. You have a sprint. You have kind of some special attacks, some spells you can cast. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the combat, in my opinion, is probably the highlight. There's like over 30 bosses in the game, and they all have their unique abilities and skills, and you have to find out the tricks to beat them. Not too hard, but I think it's done pretty well. But the combat to me is the highlight. You do have some special abilities, like your primary attack depends on the weapon. Like if you have a sword, you kind of spin around. I was using the axe there, and that's a different special attack. Your left click is your primary attack, and like I said, I use my right click as to hold the view down, so it'll kind of look as I go. They don't have a setting yet to hold down or to toggle that, so you actually physically have to hold it down for now. Maybe someone has done a mod on it yet. If you have found that, post it in the comments below. I haven't seen it yet. And then I use shift as my sprint. That's on a timer. You don't have mana or stamina. Everything's really on timers, which is okay, not the best. I think stamina might be good, but if you shift, you'll see it counts down there before you can use that ability again. Same thing with some of your spells. You can cast these different spells, and those go on timers as well. You have an ultimate ability. I don't have an ultimate set up on this particular one. But as you go up in levels, you'll be able to access an ultimate. My mouse button, my top left mouse button is my set to my ultimate, but like I said, I don't have that at the moment. So really my mouse buttons, the way I use it is left click as attack, right click is to change my view, and it's basically turn on mouse look. I use the far right mouse button as my map. I seem to always do that in most of my games, so I just click that and it toggles between the map, which you'll look at a lot. And then the middle mouse button, it does a number of different things within game. Probably the most common is it divides the stacks. So if you have multiple items, you click on that and it divides them, which is kind of handy. You also use it to repair and a few other things, so that's the default, and I use that for that. So that's the mouse buttons and how I fight and play V Rising. So if you noticed, it's a blood moon right now. There is day and night cycles. So if you were noticing earlier when I was running around, if you get in the sunlight, it actually damages you. So you have to stay in the shadows. But if you go out at night, of course, you're fine because you're a vampire. There's a wolf right there. So I'll show you how you feed. Oh, I killed him. You feed on creatures and on humans to raise up your blood pool. So my blood pool, if you see down here, is about halfway full. And there's different blood types depending on the creature that you fed on last. So I fed on a worker last, and it was a 19% blood quality. This deer right here what were you, 2%? Oh, 32%. So let me see if I can feed it. Sometimes you end up killing the deer. I have to punch it so I don't, there you go. And then you need to press F to feed. And you'll see he's feeding on the deer. This will raise the blood level, and it'll convert my blood pool into creature, and the quality of that was 32%. So that's how you feed. The only way to raise the blood pool is to feed. So every once in a while, you have to feed. This will go down over time, and as you take damage. So you have your hit point bar, which how many hit points you have, but then you have your blood pool, and you have to manage both of those. So periodically you'll have to feed, and you'll have to change your blood quality. And depending on if you fight a warrior or a brute or a rogue, your special abilities and the will change based on the quality of that blood and the type of creature you're feeding on. It's actually done pretty well. You'll get used to it pretty quickly. So that's how I play V-Rising, and kind of the settings there. Like I said, you'll get used to holding down the mouse button and casting your spells to kind of start, do your ranged attack. You have a shift, which puts kind of like a dummy up there, which helps you kind of get out of con. I got hit there, but it's pretty well done. It has enough diversity there that I think it's done well. When you fight multiple mobs, you can you really have to pay attention. You can take damage pretty quickly. It's definitely a game that's more enjoyable with more people. So we really like playing it that way. I'm not going to make you guys watch this entire fight. It does vary based on the weapons you fight too. So if you're fighting certain creatures, they might be more susceptible to a mace versus an axe. So you'll do more damage here with a mace, for example, on this guy. So anyway, that's that. So like I mentioned, there is a lot of base building and crafting. This is my castle up here, and you use that to refine different things, craft your different armor, weapons. There's a wide variety of equipment or stations. Like for example, this is all alchemy in here. So you have a vermin nest, a blood press, and an alchemy table. And then you'll go into a workshop, which will have workshop type items, grinders, a tannery, and then your kind of your sawmill over there. So you'll build up over time. I'm only level 41. I think you kind of finish the game after about 80 hours from what I've heard. And you get to about level 75 or 80, I think, is about when most people will finish it. Of course, that will vary depending on your mileage and how you play the game. So that's V-Rising. Like I said, I would recommend it. I think it's really well done. It's definitely something to play with friends, and it's something that if you played Valheim or Conan Exiles, you're really gonna like it. So thanks for watching the video today, and we will talk soon. Take care.